Good morning. Hello, and thank you for joining the Citrus Education Conference as part of the 2021 Virtual Southeast Regional Fruit and Vegetable Conference. My name is Lindy Savell. I serve as the president of the Georgia Citrus Association, and I will serve as the moderator of the Citrus Educational Conference presentation today. But before we get started with the presentation, I'd like to thank SQM for sponsoring the 2021 Citrus Educational Conference. We have a short video that we'd like to play for you. Thank you, SQM. Thank you again, SQM, for sponsoring this. Pesticide CEU and CCA credits are available for most presentations offered during the live Southeast Regional Conference. Check your Pesticide CEU guide for a list of approved presentations and participating states. The Pesticide CEU guide is located in the Event Resources tab under the Media Player. The guide is also available at the Resources Center located on the main menu of the conference platform. Please note pesticide credits will only be available for registered attendees and only during the live conference. Credits will not be available for on-demand viewing. There is a simple three-step process to receive pesticide CEU and CCA credits. First, go to the audience chat box located on the left side of your screen and type your first name, last name, and the states for which you are requesting credits. Again, go to the audience chat box located on the left side of your screen and type your first name, last name, and the states for which you are requesting credits. You will need to do this for every presentation to request CEU credits. The second step is to sign out at the end of every presentation. To sign out, go to the audience chat box, type your first name, last name, and the states for which you are requesting credits. You will be reminded to sign out at the end of the presentation. And then the third step is to complete the pesticide CEU registration. You only have to do this one time during the conference. It's not required for every presentation. To access the Pesticide CEU registration web link, open the Pesticide CEU guide in the Event Resources tab located under the Media Player. The Pesticide CEU registration web link is located on the front cover of the guide. The presentation today has been pre-recorded to reduce technical difficulties. We will be answering your questions live at the end of the presentation. So you can submit a question at any point during this presentation by typing your question in the questions box and then pressing send. Don't forget to thank our 2021 conference sponsors and exhibitors by visiting the virtual trade show and featured products pavilion. And lastly, don't forget to join us each morning for coffee chats and each evening for networking. Be sure to check the conference agenda for details. And now I would like to introduce you to our speaker today, Dr. Jonathan Oliver. Dr. Oliver is an assistant professor in the Department of Plant Pathology at the University of Georgia. He attended the University of Florida for his undergraduate degree in plant pathology and microbiology and cell science, and received a PhD in plant pathology from Cornell University. Dr. Oliver has experience working with a variety of fungal, bacterial, and viral pathogens, as well as their insect vectors during his undergraduate, graduate, and postdoctoral research. At the University of Georgia, Dr. Oliver serves as the Extension Fruit Pathologist at the Coastal Plains Experiment Station in Tifton, Georgia. In this position, Dr. Oliver has research and extensive responsibilities focused on diseases affecting emerging fruit crops in southern Georgia, including blueberries, blackberries, and citrus. Dr. Oliver, thank you for doing this presentation for us about citrus diseases and the identification of vector insects. We appreciate your time and your expertise. And now I'll hand it over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindy. I'm glad to be here today and speaking to you about this topic. I would like to point out that some of the information that I'll be presenting and some of the work that's being done has been done in coordination with Dr. Imran Ali, who is the director of the UGA Plant Molecular Diagnostic Lab in Tifton, and also with Richard Evans, who is a UGA cooperative extension agent in Bryan County. So today, I'm going to be talking to you about your options for diagnosing citrus samples within Georgia, and then I'll spend most of my time talking about citrus greening and the Asian citrus psyllid before I mention a couple of UGA citrus resources that are available to you. Speaking first about the UGA citrus diagnostic options, we have a plant disease clinic that diagnoses routinely samples from various plant hosts, including citrus, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the diseases we've seen over the last 3 years on citrus in Georgia. And then I'm going to talk to you about the services offered by another laboratory at UGA, the UGA Molecular Diagnostic Lab, and the testing options they have available for citrus samples. First, with respect to UGA citrus disease diagnostic options, there are 3 laboratories. One is the UGA Plant Pathology Plant Disease Clinic in Athens. Another is the UGA Plant Pathology Nematode Laboratory in Athens. And another is the UGA Plant Molecular Diagnostic Laboratory in Tifton. Each of these offer different services in the way of testing. So the Plant Disease Clinic in Athens offers free testing for commercial samples, and they offer a basic disease diagnosis system. And they also will diagnose homeowner samples for $10 per sample. The Nematode Lab diagnoses and tests for nematodes, and the Plant Molecular Diagnostic Laboratory in Tifton offers a fee-for-service laboratory and offers testing for $40 per sample. And usually they specialize in the type of testing necessary to test for bacterial and viral pathogens. For citrus disease diagnosis questions, I encourage you, whether you're a citrus producer or a homeowner with citrus, to contact your local UGA extension agent, and they can help you with your citrus issues and point you to the right direction as far as where to get your samples and your problems diagnosed. Speaking about the Plant Disease Clinic in Athens, since 2017, when I started at UGA, 73 different issues have been diagnosed on citrus. Many of these diagnoses have been anthracnose, which causes the gnarly symptoms you see in the top right corner on leaves. And even though this is not a major disease of citrus, it is a frequent issue that we get a lot of questions about. In addition, we see a lot of Phytophthora, and Phytophthora causes root rot and damages the root system and keeps the plant from taking up water and nutrients properly, which can cause chlorosis or leaf loss. And we see a lot of this also across Georgia citrus. In addition, though not represented here in the list, I've gotten many calls about, and I know many agents who have seen citrus scab within Georgia. So we know citrus scab has been frequently observed, and it's widespread, likely within Georgia citrus. In addition, our most common issue from an insect is leaf miner damage, and often these, when leaf miners damage leaves, as shown in this picture, the anthracnose fungus will colonize this damage, and it'll look like a disease issue. And so we get a lot of calls about that, thinking it's a disease, but it's actually damage from an insect, and in this case, leaf miner. The UGA Plant Molecular Diagnostic Lab is a fee-based lab that's on the UGA Tifton campus, and it offers molecular testing for bacterial, viral, and viroid diseases. In particular, it offers testing for both citrus greening and citrus canker, as well as citrus tristaza virus and several other viral diseases. It also offers testing for most of the major citrus viroids. And in addition to offering individual testing for $40 per sample, they now offer a test panel that can test for all 4 of these viruses and 6 of these viroids for $300 per sample. If you'd like more details on the testing offered by the Molecular Diagnostic Laboratory, I encourage you to look at the Molecular Diagnostic website that's shown down here, or contact Dr. Ali with your questions. From some of that testing that's been done in Georgia this past year for viroids, we've identified hop stunt viroid for the first time in Georgia in 2020. So some citrus cultivar decapon was found from 2 Georgia citrus nurseries, was found to be positive for hop stunt viroid. So some hop stunt viroid variants are pretty significant. They cause a disease called cachexia, which causes discolored inner bark, stem pitting, bark splitting, and stunting on citrus. And you can see some of those symptoms here. Usually you have to take off the bark to see some of those symptoms, but they can also cause stunting of the plant. Typically, there are no symptoms from this on leaves or fruit. Now, thankfully, there are variants of HSVD that cause cachexia, and there's others that don't. And our sequencing of the ones we had in Georgia determined our isolates to be non-cachexia variants. So they're unlikely to cause symptoms on most citrus cultivars, but nurseries and growers should be aware of the presence of viroids and not be moving them around the state, because there are other more severe viroids that can cause issues. Citrus greening and the Asian citrus psyllid is kind of the next big topic I'm going to talk about today. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the Asian citrus psyllid trapping project that's being headed up by Richard Evans, and the citrus greening survey efforts, which have been headed up by myself and Dr. Ali. Speaking about citrus greening, you should know if by now, or at least heard of citrus greening, because it is the most significant disease of citrus worldwide. If you haven't heard of it, you might be confused by all these different acronyms, but it's actually caused by a bacteria known as Candidatus liberobacter asiaticus. So sometimes it's called CLOS, or infection is called CLOS because that's the bacteria. And it's vectored by the Asian citrus psyllid, which is sometimes abbreviated ACP. The disease is also called Huanglongbing because it originated in China, and it's sometimes abbreviated as HLB. So HLB is citrus greening, and it's caused by CLOS and spread by ACP. And this disease causes fruit deformities, leaf yellowing, and tree decline on citrus because the bacteria that causes it lives in the phloem of the tree, and it disrupts normal plant sugar transport within the tree. A characteristic symptom of HLB is blotchy mottle. So it's a little bit different from a standard chlorosis that may be caused by nutrient deficiencies or issues with fertilization, in that the chlorosis is asymmetrical. So what that means is that if you fold the leaf in half down the midrib, as you can see in the picture on the left side, the bottom left-hand leaf, if you were to fold that leaf, the parts that are yellow and chlorotic would not line up with parts on the opposite side of the leaf that are yellow and chlorotic. It would not be kind of a mirror image. And that it could be an indication that these trees are infected with the bacteria that causes HLB. And in fact, all of these trees were from Georgia. These pictures were taken in Georgia of trees that were confirmed to be infected with affected by HLB. Wherever citrus greening has been found, citrus production has been compromised with the loss of millions of trees. So we're very concerned about it in Georgia. In Florida, their experience has been horrible. 80% of the trees in Florida are currently infected with this bacteria. Since 2005, when it was first identified in Florida, citrus production in Florida has declined by 70%, and it's cost the industry $4.5 billion. All of this very important disease is transmitted by a very tiny insect, and it's transmitted by the Asian citrus psyllid. And this psyllid is pictured here on the right in this red circle. And you'll see that it's a very small insect. It's only about a 1/6 to a 1/10 of an inch long. Because these larger things on either side are actually leaves. So you can tell we're zoomed in on this psyllid, and it still looks fairly small in this image. This psyllid persistently transmits the bacteria, which means once it feeds on a plant that has the bacteria inside, the bacteria will multiply inside the vector, and then the vector can retransmit the bacteria to uninfected trees. It only takes about 15 to 30 minutes of feeding by these adult psyllids to acquire the bacteria, but it'll have to replicate inside of them, and so it takes about 8 to 12 days before they can retransmit the bacteria to uninfected trees. Unfortunately, this insect has a relatively short life cycle, 15 to 47 days, which means that it can produce up to 9 or 10 generations per year, which means even if we only have start out with a small number of Asian citrus psyllids within a citrus planting, you can end up with a very large number in a relatively short amount of time. To identify the psyllids, there's a few things that are done. So this wing coloration, this black coloration at the end of the wing, indicates that you have the Asian citrus psyllid. Again, they're very small, 1/6 to 1/10 of an inch long, and they feed kind of in an upright posture at a 45-degree angle from the leaf. So they kind of stick their butt up in the air while they're feeding, and so you can recognize them by that, because not all psyllids feed in that manner. In addition, the nymphs, the very small young psyllids, also secrete this waxy white little strings you can see in the picture on the right. And if you look at the new flush, because that's where the psyllid likes to feed and that's where the nymphs like to feed, and you see this white stringy stuff, you will know that there possibly is a psyllid infestation there, even if you can't quite see the nymphs themselves. Our trapping project that started a couple of years ago is a 3-year project to track movement of the Asian citrus psyllid in Georgia. And the idea is that this can be used to identify potential HLB infected locations. And if we understand where the psyllid is located in Georgia, the distribution of it, this can help our efforts to slow the progression of both this pest and the HLB infections that it often carries. The purpose of this, again, would be to inform citrus growers and homeowners if insecticide applications for this insect are pertinent. So wouldn't necessarily just blanket spray for this pest, because we don't know that it's present in citrus fields, but if it does become present in either a homeowner setting or in commercial citrus fields, there are recommended sprays of insecticides that are applied in those circumstances. But we really don't know where the psyllid is, and so we can't make any kind of recommendation at this point until we're more aware of where the psyllid is found. So where have we looked? This project has looked in 35 South Georgia counties, and they're all shaded here. 31 UGA extension agents have been involved in placing yellow sticky traps in both commercial and residential citrus sites in these counties. The Asian citrus psyllid so far, as a result of this trapping project, has been found in Camden and Lowndes County, and they're shown with the white star at the bottom of this map. In addition, previous testing for this or trapping projects focused on the psyllid have found the psyllid along the coast of Georgia and also in Lowndes County. And so all the counties shaded in red are locations where the psyllid has been found previously. So so far with this project, the Asian citrus psyllid has not been found in new locations in 2019 or 2020. And this suggests that the psyllid is not yet widespread, at least in southern Georgia, though it is present, and it definitely appears to be present along the coast and possibly is moving in from the south in Georgia. So in 2021, the plans for this project are to continue it. The agents are going to continue placing traps in commercial and residential plantings. If you have citrus trees and you'd like to have a trap placed in your planting or in your yard, we encourage you to contact either your local UGA extension office or Richard Evans, and he can tell you, who you need to get in touch with in order to get a trap or have someone place a trap for you. Participating UGA extension offices in 2021 will be provided with traps that you may possibly be able to pick up yourself or utilize as needed. But contact your local extension office for more information if you'd like to be involved. Updated information on this is going to be posted to the UGA Citrus blog, and I'll talk about the UGA Citrus blog in a moment. First, I would like to mention the citrus greening survey that we've been involved with the last couple of years. So my program received a grant from the USDA to conduct a statewide survey for citrus greening within Georgia. And through this program, we're able to accept at least 25 samples per county each year for testing for citrus greening for free, something that normally costs, as you saw with the molecular diagnostic lab, $40 per sample. And so if you have suspect trees that you think may have HLB or that you'd like tested, we encourage you to contact your local extension office or me, and I can let you know whether we can accept those samples now and get those tested for you. The UGA Plant Molecular Diagnostic Lab is testing those samples, and they've tested some samples in 2019 and 2020 already, and we'd encourage you to submit samples in 2021 so that we can understand where this very important disease may be present in Georgia. So far, what we found in 2019 and 2020, we looked in 14 counties across southern Georgia, we've sampled from 249 trees from 42 commercial and residential citrus locations, and we've tested those with molecular testing to determine if the bacteria that causes citrus greening, sea loss, was present in those trees. 11 of the 90 trees that we sampled from residential sites were positive for sea loss. By contrast, none of the samples from research and demo plots, either in Tifton, Lowndes County, and other places across the southern part of the state, were infected, and none of the commercial trees, trees that are located in commercial citrus plantings, have been infected based on our testing. So where have we tested trees, and where were the positive trees located? Well, they were located in the county shaded in red here. We've also looked in these counties shaded in gray and not found HLB to this point. So in 2019, the HLB was found in Lowndes, Pierce, and Bryan counties for the first time. And in 2020, we have found HLB in Ware and Glenn counties and confirmed that for the first time. In addition, Camden County and Chatham County have also had positive samples tested, and they were known to be counties where HLB was present prior to the initiation of this survey. We found a variety of different varieties of citrus to be infected. Kumquat, grapefruit, oranges, lemons, and satsumas, which are grown in people's backyards across the southern part of the state, have been found to be positive for sea loss. All of the confirmed HLB positive trees so far have been residential citrus trees, which means they've been trees in people's backyards, side yards, or front yards. None of these have been in commercial locations. So we know that HLB is present in residential citrus trees within the coastal plain of Georgia. Specifically, we know it's present in Bryan, Chatham, Camden, Glenn, Lowndes, Pierce, and Ware counties. And it's likely everywhere along the coast where I showed you that map earlier where the Asian citrus psyllid has been identified. The presence of HLB in these residential trees does represent a threat to nearby commercial production, because even though our commercial production currently is in kind of isolated pockets and they may be separated widely across the southern part of the state, we do have houses all over the state, and people have trees in their yard, and those trees may ultimately bridge the gap between otherwise isolated commercial plantings and provide sites where the bacteria is present and provide sites where the Asian citrus psyllid can reproduce on those trees. And so, often homeowners, aren't scouting their tree actively. Some of these are completely unmaintained citrus trees. They're not spraying insecticides or anything like that. So these are a potential time bomb for the spread of HLB. And so we encourage, homeowners and commercial citrus growers alike to submit samples if they think they may be positive for HLB. And we also suggest that commercial growers really need to be vigilantly monitoring their new plantings for both the Asian citrus psyllid and HLB. Just because we're up in Georgia and it's generally been considered a Florida issue to have problems with citrus greening does not mean HLB is not here, and that our commercial citrus groves will be immune to this disease. So we encourage you to be on the lookout for it and to get your samples tested for free at the Molecular Diagnostic Lab in Tifton. If you'd like to submit a sample to the Molecular Diagnostic Lab, briefly, this is a one page that shows how to do that. If you look in the top left corner, you'll see that we'd encourage you to submit a sample that's about 10 to 12 leaves still attached to the end of a branch. Put these in a Ziploc bag to keep them from drying out, and then include the appropriate information on that bag so you can tell where that tree was in case you submit more than one sample. In addition, on the Molecular Diagnostic Lab website, there's a sample submitter form that we'd like you to fill out so that we can contact you with the results of your test. And place that sample submitter form in another Ziploc bag to keep it from getting wet, and place that all in a box and ship it to the Plant Molecular Diagnostic Lab. Now, if you don't want to do this yourself, you're very welcome to do this through your UGA, local UGA extension office. Take it to the office or call them and ask them how you can have your samples tested through this program. But we encourage you to make contact. And you can also contact Dr. Ali. His email address is shown down here if you have further questions about the sample submission process, or contact myself. I'm going to leave you by talking about the additional UGA citrus resources that are available, the UGA citrus blog, and an opportunity for free testing for another bacterial pathogen of citrus canker. So the UGA citrus blog is something that I created a little over a year ago in the fall of 2019. And it includes updates, and we try to make blog posts regularly on any updates from UGA citrus research or news about citrus in Georgia. It includes links to multiple UGA extension publications on production of citrus fruit, maintaining commercial citrus, budgets for fresh market satsumas, and it also includes information on the diagnosis of HLB and other citrus diseases. It also, as you see in the center post here that's shown from earlier this year, it includes information about our testing program for HLB. In addition, Dr. Ali's lab received funding recently so that he can begin a survey for citrus canker in Georgia in 2021. So in addition to offering free testing now for citrus greening, we're able to offer free testing for citrus canker on samples that are submitted to the molecular diagnostic lab. This disease is caused by a different bacterial species, Xanthomonas citri species, and this bacteria, interestingly, and this disease was the major disease of citrus back when I was a student at the University of Florida in the early 2000s. And it was definitely completely eclipsed by the issues with citrus greening. But at the time, citrus canker was the major concern. And it is a very important disease in its own right, and it's subject to quarantine regulations. It has not been found so far in Georgia. However, it does cause significant fruit cankers, stem cankers, and leaf cankers. And you should be aware of this disease. And if you have samples that or plants that you may think are infected with citrus canker, we'd encourage you to submit those to the molecular diagnostic lab and contact Dr. Ali for details. I'd like to thank all the agents that are involved in both of these projects, the trapping project and the citrus greening survey, and thank the funding agencies, including the Georgia Citrus Association, who's providing some of the funding for the Asian citrusilla trapping project, and the Georgia Department of Ag and the USDA, which have provided some of the funding for the citrus greening survey that we have. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have, and thank you for listening.